What's up, y'all, man? I took a little break from YouTube, but I will be back with a vengeance for today and tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I'll be uploading a lot, so look out for those videos. Um, so Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce, I guess he said this on what was it, maybe NBA Countdown or something. And I put a link to an article talked about this in the description box. And Paul Pierce emphatically believes that he had a better career than Dwayne Wade. And basically, his argument is, well, let me read verbatim. I'm not going to try to paraphrase. Let me read what he's saying, okay? Basically, he said that if you put, well, you know what? I'm going to paraphrase. Basically, he said, like, if you put Shaq and, LeBron and Bosh with him when he was in his prime, he would have 5 or 6 NBA championships. You know, um, basically that's what he's trying to say. And basically he was saying like for a good stretch of his career, he was playing with like the best player he was playing with was Antoine Walker. So that's his argument. Now I will say this about Paul Pierce. He had better longevity than Wade. All right. I believe Paul Pierce played. Trying to think off the top of my head, I think it was 19 seasons. I think Paul Pierce played. Whereas Wade, this will be his, what is this? His 16th season, I think. So when it comes to longevity, Paul Pierce has the edge, all right? And we all know that Wade, I wouldn't say Wade was injury riddled, but I say once Wade started hitting his late 20s, definitely once he hit 30, his body started breaking down, all right? So longevity wise, Paul Pierce has the edge. But you can miss me with that, all right? Because Paul, there were too many seasons where you were playing with the Boston Celtics and they sucked. Okay? I distinctly remember that. And it wasn't like the Eastern Conference was that beastly. Now, it wasn't as weak as the LeBron era Eastern Conference, but it was pretty weak. And let me just go through some seasons, okay? Let me just go through some seasons. Bear with me, guys. Okay, Paul Pierce's first season was what, the strike year? I think it was the strike season. All right, the year before the strike season, the Boston Celtics was 36-46. All right, Paul Pierce's first season, they were 19-31. So actually a drop in win percentage. The next season, 35-47. The next season, 36-46. The next season, okay, that was the year they turned it all around, 49-33. All right. The next season, 44-38. So they were never like a elite team. The next season, 36-46. And they actually made the playoffs with that horrible record. The next season, 45-37, lost in the first round to the Pacers. The next season, 2005-2006, 33-49, didn't make the playoffs. The next year, 24-58. Now, Paul Pierce did miss a lot of that season, but still, it wasn't until the Big Three were formed that Paul Pierce started winning. Okay? Now let's go to the Miami Heat. We go the year before Dwyane Wade was drafted. Year before, 25-57. Dwyane Wade's rookie year, 42-40. Made the playoffs. Made all the way to the semifinals. All right, that was without Shaquille O'Neal. The next season, 59-23. The next season, 52-30, NBA champions. The next season, 44-38. The next season, okay, they did have a horrible season. They were 15-67 that year. All right, Wade missed a lot of the season. All right, I think he missed 21 games that season and battled a lot of injuries throughout the season. All right, the next season, 43-39. The next season, this is before Wade and Bosh joined, LeBron and Bosh joined, 47-35. And I don't really need to go through the records after that. You know what I'm saying? Final appearances, 4 straight final appearances, 2 NBA championships. All right, and it was at that time. Another thing too, when LeBron and Bosh joined Wade in Miami, Wade was at that time about 28 years old. Okay, but because of Wade's style of play, he was a more aggressive player than Paul Pierce, more physical. All right, he's the greatest shot blocking guard in the history of the NBA. He was a slasher. Remember they called him Flash in his prime. His body started breaking down much earlier. So he didn't, while he still was sort of in his prime the first year or so with Miami, he was already starting to break down a little bit physically. You know what I'm saying? He had been the 2006, 7, 8 version of Wade during those championship years, they might have won even more. So I'm sorry, Paul Pierce. The evidence speaks for itself. When Wade joined the Miami Heat as a healthy player, just his impact on the team alone turned that team around from being a laughingstock to being a contender, to being in the playoffs. The guy had one of the greatest runs ever statistically. And yeah, we can look at stats. You can question maybe some of the free throws in that '06 finals. But this guy led a turnaround. His team was down 2-0 to the Mavericks, almost 3-0. They were a quarter away from going down 3-0 against the Dallas Mavericks. And Wade almost single-handedly, turned that team around, motivated his teammates to play at an unbelievable level, and they came back from a 2-0 deficit to win the NBA championship 4-2. Meanwhile, Paul Pierce, the Boston Celtics sucked for a lot of the time you were there. Yeah, you put up big numbers. You did. You put up big numbers. But more often than not, the impact wasn't there. And when Wade came on the scene with the Miami Heat, the Eastern Conference had kind of increased as far as competition is concerned. Remember that mid 2000s, you had a lot of good teams, man. You had the Pacers starting to rise before the debacle. You know what I'm saying? You had the New Jersey Nets still out there. You had the rise of the Detroit Pistons. You had the rise of LeBron's Cavaliers teams. You know what I'm saying? And Paul, when all these teams were rising in the East, shit, even uh, Gilbert Arenas and the Wizards won the playoffs one year, if I'm not mistaken. Where were your team at, Paul? Where was your team before you got Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen? You guys were doing nothing. And I'm not saying you were playing with great players. You make a good point. You didn't have a great team around you, okay? But the fact you didn't even make the playoffs, man, the fact y'all was winning 20 and 30 games, 24 and 58, man. And even when you guys got the big three, you only won one championship. You think if it was Wade, Garnett, and Ray Allen, they've only won one title? Come on, man. And the numbers speak for themselves, man. I saw an interesting statistic just now. Wade can come back and play all 82 games next year, not score one bucket, not score one fucking point, average 0.0 points per game next year, and he would still have a higher career scoring average than you. He was a better defensive player than you. He was a better athlete than you. All right. He was more successful than you. He was a better player, man. And to me, Wade is a top 25 all-time player. Pierce, you're somewhere in that top 35 to 40 range. That's kind of where I have you, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have you actually in my top 40 or 45. You're up there, but you're not on that level. You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion. Tell me what you guys think.